The breaking news coming out of Formula 1 as they arrived in Japan is that former McLaren employee Lauren Jones has sided with Sam over his case with Mark Davis. She has come out and said that Mark has constantly been making sexist remarks towards female employees during her time at McLaren. Lauren has worked with McLaren for the past 2 years and was obviously one of the team members involved in the garage when Sam apparently lashed out and assaulted Mark Davis. Now Lauren, however, has decided to come out publicly on this one, just like Mark has done, because as Lauren has pointed out, she has made many reports towards McLaren against Mark Davis for his sexist remarks, and they have been ignored. And with Mark coming out, the whole story coming out public about Mark Davis, about Sam, about everything that's going on involved with McLaren, Lauren has decided to do the same thing. Now, of course, Lauren has been involved in her own issues, which she has decided that since McLaren aren't taking the actions on it, she's actually obviously left the team now. Lauren is currently now working at Audi with Sam, which is a very important thing to note in all of this. But as stated, she has decided to go public and inform them that while Mark is trying to gain the sympathy factor by going public, it's quite clear that there's a lot more to Mark Davis than a lot of people seem to realise. Taking a look at the race news heading into this weekend, it was Porsche and Audi that were sharing the top spot in practice. Both of the teams looking very fast on not only the qualifying simulation runs, but on their race runs as well. As for Aston Martin, they look set for a rough weekend as the team was struggling throughout all 3 practice sessions, with both Tom and Piastri complaining of the car's overall balance. Mercedes were another team that were way off it this weekend, and especially after last weekend, this was a little bit of a surprise. Of course, last weekend, Kimi Antonelli managed to guide Mercedes to pole and victory at the Australian Grand Prix, but this weekend, things are set to be a lot worse. Ferrari are looking quite competitive here at Japan. They showed some strong pace throughout the course of the practice sessions. They were still about a tenth or two off of Porsche and Audi in both the race trim and the quali simulation runs, so with a little bit of fine tuning, they could definitely get themselves in there. Another man that is confident going into the weekend is Sebastian Vettel. He thinks that Red Bull have got a shot at a podium going into the race, which is obviously something that you want to be hearing from your driver as you head into qualifying and the race for the Japanese Grand Prix. Yo, what's going on, guys? It is Foxydude here, and welcome back to a brand new video and another episode of the F1 journey for you guys today here on the channel. We're here for the Japanese Grand Prix. If you guys end up enjoying today's video, feel free to drop it a like and subscribe to the channel if you're new around here as well. Apologies as well if my voice sounds weird. I don't know if it does on mic or not. I've been ill ever since I got back home from Malta, and I now hate the UK with a passion. But anyway, we're here in Japan, and we're going to try and get through this commentary without having me cutting it loads of times because I'm dying. But as you can see, our banker lap is 126.001, and we're basically going to go ahead and do back-to-back laps. So what I tend to do in qualifying is I tend to go out, set a banker lap, just running hot lap ERS, then I'll go ahead and do a back-to-back lap, which is what you're seeing right now, where I'll then use overtake mode during my lap, because I'm pretty sure that the AIs now use overtake. I don't know, ever since the patch came out a couple of weeks ago, it's kind of messed around with the ERS quite a lot that I don't really get it. And then once we're done with this second lap, we'll then come into the pits and we will then do one final flying lap with the lowest amount of fuel load, and it's just one shot, overtake mode, all that stuff, all the jazz. So, as you can see, this is what I mean by the difference of using overtake during the course of a lap here, because I'm already now 0.8 of a second up on my previous best lap, and it's only really by, getting used to the track itself. Japan is a track that I'm really, really bad at, so honestly, I've got not great expectations going into this weekend, but we'll just see how it goes on. But we're about a second up now on our best laps to go through 130. We've got a Renault in front of us. They shouldn't quite get in the way, so we'll be alright. We don't quite get the first apex right there going into that chicane as we now make our way down the start-finish straight here towards the line. It's a 1.3 second advantage, and that puts us up onto the front row. But as you can see, by the time everyone else sets their laps, we're down to P11. But that's okay, because we can now go ahead and set one more flying lap to try and get through towards a little bit of a better grid position, if I can get my words out properly. Through the S section we go now. We're, well, I'd say matching our previous best lap at the moment, fractionally going quicker, as we go through the end of the S section now, which is probably the most important part to get right, because that's where you can necessarily lose all the time that you can't make up in the lap. But through the first Degner and then into the second one now, it doesn't quite go to plan there. And we've actually lost a tenth of the bit now as we go in towards the hairpin. And then it starts to just, unfortunately, go downhill from here because we broke too early going into the hairpin. I then turned into that hairpin and basically just mounted the curb. So we've lost some time. We're getting a little bit going through this section, but now as we're going towards Spoon Curve, a corner which I just couldn't quite get right. We get a bit of understeer and then a snap of oversteer as well to counter at the same time, which gets us onto the gravel. So unfortunately, we're now 3 and a bit tenths down on our lap. We're down to 13th at the moment, now 14th. So while other drivers are improving, we're not going to improve, because into the last corner, we once again miss the apex through there. We then try and get onto the throttle, and we're half a second down. So unfortunately, it's only 14th. It's time for the race for the Japanese Grand Prix, but first of all, let's have a look and see how the grid lines up for the race itself. For the first time this season, we've got a front row lockout, and that has gone to Porsche. Charles Leclerc takes pole position with a 124.027, and he qualifies just half a tenth ahead of his teammate Reese on the front row. Now, Sam was not only close to the front row, missing out by 15 one-thousandths of a second, but he was just over 600ths of a second off of pole position himself. He starts ahead of Max Verstappen, who is P4 for Ferrari, ahead of Carlos Sainz in the second Audi in P5, and then Lando Norris in the second Ferrari, qualifying in P6. It's only P7 for Sebastian Vettel in the Red Bull, but crucially, he is qualified in front of both of the two McLarens, who've had a disappointing qualifying session, with Bottas out-qualifying Russell on this occasion. Daniel Ricciardo starts P10 for Renault ahead of Oscar Piastri, the highest placed Aston Martin on the grid, with Liam Lawson once again impressing, starting 12th for Jaguar. Sergio Perez starts in P13 for Red Bull ahead of myself in P14, and while my qualifying was bad, it wasn't as bad as Mercedes, with Kimi Antonelli only good enough for P15 and Lewis Hamilton could only master P16 from that Mercedes, a complete change of contrast after their pole position at the Australian Grand Prix. Stoffel Vandoorne starts 17th for BMW ahead of Alex Albon in P18. Ollie Behrman starts 19th, and Pierre Gasly starts from the back of the grid. So let's get this race underway. Alright, so as you can see, we are on the grid here for the start of the Japanese Grand Prix. It's a one-stop strategy from the mediums to the hard compound tyres. So let's get this race underway and see what we can do. We've got the 5 red lights on, and they are off, and we've got this race going, and it's not a good start for us, as you can see. Straight away then, Antonelli gets through on the inside, the outside there, but as Antonelli moves across the track, we'll go around the outside of this corner and try and get as many places as we can, and we just about avoid the back there of Daniel Ricciardo, but we've gone up 2 places. In fact, I say avoided the back of Daniel Ricciardo, but apparently, according to the game, we hit Daniel Ricciardo. So, yeah, let's just avoid that one there, as we've got one of the Jaguars there on our outside as we get rough through the S section, but we just about hold on to the position. And now, going through the Degners, you can see here that we cut through towards the hairpin, and we make a lunge there on on Daniel Ricciardo, and then we do try and make a lunge there on Piastri. But unfortunately, I actually bumped into Piastri, so he's not going to like that one too much. But now as we go in towards Spoon here, we've got a great run actually on Piastri, as we then unfortunately miss our braking point for it. So that wasn't the clearest thing in the world. I'll be honest, I tried to just send a lunge up the inside of Daniel Ricciardo, but unfortunately, I just took too much speed in, and Piastri just had to become a speed bump. You can see now as we go in towards 130R. Are we going to go for it on Piastri? You bet we're going to go for it on Oscar. And we're going to get the position there off of Piastri. What a first lap this has been for us. 4 places gained there. And a lovely move on Oscar as we lose the back end slightly there on exit. And now as we go onto the start finish straight here, let's see if Oscar can try and catch up to us now and maybe make a re-overtake. No, because unfortunately for him, he hasn't realised that because I'm so slow around here, I've set the car up so that I'm quick in a straight line, because it's the only way that I was ever going to go fast. Let's have a look then at the starts. Well, as you can see, we're right in the middle of everything here, and I knew that the inside line was difficult to make an overtake stick, and I knew the AIs would all try and go towards it, so I opted to go around the outside instead and see how that worked for me, and it worked quite well. This is on board here with Max Verstappen now, and as you can see, he actually does get a decent start here as the two Porsche drivers cover each other off. Sam is kind of left nowhere, but Verstappen is also left nowhere, so it doesn't really allow him an opportunity to get a run at anybody here. This is on board with Sebastian Vettel now. He gets a great start here, instantly jumps ahead of Lando Norris. Now as Sainz here tries to find a way through in towards turn 1 and 2, watch how Vettel is just able to, I was about to say, watch how he's able to swoop around the outside of Carlos Sainz, but he didn't actually do that one, so he just got past Lando Norris there, so fair play to him. Lap 2 to start lap 3 of the Grand Prix, and things are now starting to get a little bit rough for me. As you can see here, Piastri has got DRS. We're going to try and cover this one off going in towards turn 1, which we do a great job of that, but unfortunately you can just see that the whole of the top 10, basically, and I am P10, but the rest of the 9 cars up front are now rapidly pulling away from myself, and I'm losing a lot of time here. So at the end of lap 3 now, to start lap 4, we're still losing time on them. I just do not have any race pace right now, and that's something that my teammate Piastri is kind of getting a bit fuming about right now. So with the DRS open here comes Oscar Piastri now, opening up that DRS. He's going to go on through in towards turn 1. Ricciardo's trying to find a way through, but Piastri does get the job done on us then as we go through in towards turn 1. We've got a yellow flag there. One of the Ferraris is going slowly. That's Lando Norris there. Norris with an engine failure going through the S sections. Piastri's been held up by Norris. We've overtaken Oscar Piastri, but for Lando Norris, his race is run and done, and now he's blocking Gasly, I think that is, and also Behrman in that S section. So he is now out of the Japanese Grand Prix, and that is a real big shame for him, and that puts us now into P9, but it's not going to be P9 for any longer. I've noticed now that whilst I've tried to hold off Piastri for the first few laps to try and see if I can just, when the AI stop using their ERS all the time, to kind of close into the front runners, ultimately I can't. So I've decided that because Lando's out of the race, and because I'm now still in P10, I'm just going to let Piastri through and sit in P10 and just see how this race goes. So for the time being, let's go and have a look what's going on at the front of the field here. It's a Porsche 1-2, but Leclerc no longer leads the race. Reese now leads the race. And normally I can try and be hyper active and showcase, you know, oh my god, he's taken the lead for the Grand Prix. But when I say that right now, you are going to see lap after lap after lap of overtake after overtake after overtake for the race lead, I genuinely mean it. But here's an opportunity now. Carlos Sainz here trying to have a look at Max Verstappen going in towards 130R. Will he go down the inside of Verstappen? No. Thinks better of it. Backs out and sits back and waits for another opportunity. At the front though, you can see Sam in the Audi is right on the back of Reese in the fight for the lead of this section of the Grand Prix. But Reese then just gets a tremendous exit off of the final corner there. And with the DRS then, he's going to re-overtake Charles Leclerc. They're basically, the two Porsche drivers, just slipstreaming each other and keeping themselves in a 1-2 position. So right now, the teamwork is working beautifully for Porsche. So fair play to them. And here comes Sainz again for another attack on Verstappen into 130R. He's going to try and go side by side into 130R. They do go side by side into 130R, but Verstappen holds off the attack from Sainz and he can keep on going. But crucially, he can't afford to lose too much time trying to fight away with Sainz, because if he does that, he's not going to get DRS to defend himself as these top three keep fighting each other. And there goes Leclerc to retake the lead of the race. Verstappen stays in 4th place for the time being, but can he make sure that he stays in DRS for the remainder of this stint? Otherwise, it's going to be a problem, because Vettel and the two McLarens are right in the mix here, as you just saw there. Sainz having a little look there on Verstappen into turn 1. Reese re-overtakes Charles Leclerc. Lap 10 of the Grand Prix now. Leclerc is going to re-overtake Reese once again. And you can see now that the top 9 here are absolutely just in a different league right now of just fighting away for positions here. Charles Leclerc re-overtakes Reese in this Grand Prix. This is on board with Leclerc now, and as you can see, he's changing up the camera angle ever so slightly. Let me know if you want to see some more like of these onboard camera angles, because I never really do them, do I? But going towards turn 1 then, Leclerc making his way through, and he's locked up into turn 1, into the second part of the first corner there. Just got on the brakes there, and he's caused a yellow flag, but it's alright. He can get back on with it again, but crucially, he's gone now down from 1st into, what is that, 4th or 5th? and that is a beautiful opportunity now to put the advantage in Audi's favour, because Sainz is going through on Verstappen, and Sams goes through on Reese to lead the Japanese Grand Prix, and Vettel now gets past Charles Leclerc. So it's a horrible lap there for Porsche, and they'll be regretting that one pretty badly. Lap 13 of the Grand Prix, there you can see the top 9, as unfortunately Gasly has just retired from this session. Yet more unreliability for the Renault team. And here is a replay of that. Funnily enough, his engine's gone in the same place, but look at that though. So this is just after the pit stop phases there. Gasly, by slowing in that S section, actually just blocks Sam there. So that's going to cost Sam a crucial amount of time, as he was trying to undercut the drivers in front of him, and by losing that much time, that might, whoa, that was a little bit wavy there, that might just cost him the undercut opportunity and even a chance at the lead there. So yeah, that's going to be quite key for them. But we're coming into the pits for our one and only stop here, onto a set of the hard compound tyres. So how's my stint gone, because you've seen none of it? Well, rubbish. We're keeping the crucial thing in this stint really, and for the rest of the race, is just hoping that Piastri's got the pace, because ultimately, the problem I've got is that Oscar Piastri doesn't have the pace to catch these top 9 cars. I don't have the pace either. That's just a fair fact of it. I'm just able to stay in DRS of Piastri. Now, I know what you can say. We'll just overtake Piastri again and get on with it. The problem is I'm not quick enough. So I'm in a rock and a hard place right now where I'm not quick enough to catch and pass. I'm quick enough to pass Oscar Piastri. I'm not quick enough to pull away from Piastri. And it's just not working. So yeah, we're in a really difficult situation at the moment. Back at the front, though, Reese is leading this Grand Prix. Sainz is now in second place after the pit stop windows. Charles Leclerc has fought his way back up to third after the undercut, so that's worked well for him, the undercut. The undercut that didn't work, though, was for Sam, because as you can see, because he got held up by Gasly going for that S section when he retired the car, it has meant that he's now in the battle with Verstappen and not at the fight at the front where he was before. Lap 17 of the Grand Prix, and now we're going to have a difficult ending for ourselves here to hold on to scoring a solitary point in this race, because as Daniel Ricciardo there tries to have a look in towards turn 1, I've now lost the DRS from Oscar Piastri. So like I said, it doesn't matter if I have DRS or not, I'm just not quick enough. So that's a bit of a problem for us. Lap 18 of the Grand Prix, though, a problem for Reese is that he's no longer going to be leading the Japanese Grand Prix, because that honour is going to go to Carlos Sainz in the Audi. So there he goes, off and away. But one lap later, Reese is going to come back at him as that Porsche driver gets such a great exit out of those last corners. And it just gives him the opportunity, as you can see, to just blitz it with the DRS, and down towards turn 1 he goes. And Reese will say, thank you very much, I will have some of that. But as you can see now, going towards 130R here, this is somewhere where Sainz has been a little bit tempted to try and go for some attacks here. He does have a look into 130R, but it's not quite the place where he wants to make the move stick as they go down in towards the final chicane now. And as you can see, I think in the background there, Sam is in P4, and it looks like he's just cleared off. He has. There's a side-by-side moment there between Vettel and Verstappen, and I didn't catch it because I've only just noticed it now. But Sainz goes through and takes back the lead of the Japanese Grand Prix. Vettel and Verstappen, there they are, fighting hard in towards the first corner. They actually went side-by-side into 130R then. I genuinely didn't catch that until now, so I couldn't have gone back and tried to find that piece of footage, but they were going for it. And that has allowed Sam then to pull clear of that lot, and he can try and get after the 2 Porsche cars and give his teammates some backup at the front of the field here. Lap 20, here comes Ricciardo again. We've got the overtake on. We're defending as much as we can in towards turn 1. That's the crucial thing. The straight line speed is quite good, but our turn in there, Ricciardo trying to be cheeky and go down the inside, but we'll cover that one off. But that was a little bit of a warning sign there from Daniel Ricciardo, but that is the crucial thing. We've just got the straight line speed to keep ourselves in check. So the run towards 130R and the start-finish straight were fast enough. That's all we need, because right now we are battling to score a point. That is literally all I'm doing right now, because I can't catch Piastri because he's gone and he's out of DRS. So we'll focus on these drivers at the front there as we accidentally see a little bit of fast forwarding, but we were away from that. Now, on to lap 22, this Grand Prix here. Here comes Carlos Sainz to make his way past Reese now, so it seems to be a little bit of a slipstreaming effect, but not in the way they wanted. The 2 McLarens there going side by side in towards turn 1, and I think that is Bottas overtaking George Russell. On board with Sainz again now, and here you can see now that Sam has now closed into the DRS window of the three in front, should I say now. So while Reese may have overtaken Sainz on this occasion, there is Sam now. So he's able to make this a Porsche versus Audi fight for the finish. So let's see who's going to come out on top. Will it be Porsche or will it be Audi? Well, down the start-finish straight we go. And Carlos Sainz here is going to retake the lead of the race. Reese will sit in second place for the time being, but this overtaking fight is just going to keep going on and on and on and on. And this is the key one now. Reese is going to make this overtake on Sainz, you'd expect, which he does. There's one more chance now for DRS here. So all Sainz has to do is get this overtake right, and he could win this Japanese Grand Prix. So here we go. The last time these drivers will get DRS there down the straight. Who's going to come out on top? You'd expect, with what we've seen all race long, that it's going to be towards Sainz's favour. He's going to go to the inside, but Reese covers it. He's covered it nicely, and now comes Leclerc around the outside into turns 1 and 2. Can he hold the position? No, but Reese now will lead the Japanese Grand Prix. He's off and away through the sections we go now with Leclerc and Sainz. They're really going for this now, and no one's lifting, no one's giving it an inch. They're still side by side. Sainz has the outside line going in towards the next part of the track here, and as they fly up the hill now, end of sector 1 through the Degners, Leclerc comes out on top. It's a 1-2 for Porsche in the Japanese Grand Prix. Sainz misses out on his chance to win this race, and as we see in just a minute's time here, as I'm trying to fend off Sergio Perez, Reese has just won the Japanese Grand Prix. It will be, for us though, unfortunately, it will be for Valtteri Bottas, the fastest lap of the race, because he's just secured that. And for us though, all we could muster up in this race was a lonely P10. That is all I could do in the Japanese Grand Prix, but what a final lap there. They were literally just giving each other a couple of overtakes here and there, and just saying, you can have the lead for one lap, you can have it for the next lap, and so forth. But in the end, Reese manages to win the Grand Prix, 1.4 seconds clear. He finishes of Charles Leclerc. Carlos Sainz, that last lap, he had it. It looked like he had it on the inside there, but Reese just managed to do enough to defend the position there. I genuinely thought Sainz was going to come through when I was watching the replay cameras, but he didn't. And he's missed out, and he only finishes in P3, ahead of Sam then, who finishes in 4th for the second Audi driver. Yeah, that's right, I suppose. So yeah, it's a 1-2 for the first time this season, and it is going to Porsche. I think both Audi drivers will be really, really disappointed with that race. A for Sainz, because he didn't make that move on the last lap when he probably should have and could have. And for Sam, obviously, he made the undercut work for himself. But Gasly, by retiring, it just allowed, he had to slow down because Gasly wouldn't move off the racing line there. So while it hurt Sam, Leclerc was able to make the undercut work even more because he was then right behind Sam. So it backfired there. Sebastian Vettel does come home in P5 for Red Bull. So a couple of places gained from this race for Vettel, ahead of Max Verstappen, who is 6th for Ferrari. George Russell finishes in front of his teammate Valtteri Bottas. The gap between them two and the race winners was 7.1 and 7.5 seconds. But crucially though, if you look at the top 6, the gap was 3.4 seconds between 1st and 6th. So a very close Japanese Grand Prix. Unfortunately for Oscar Piastri though, he wasn't quite close enough. He finishes 11.7 off of the race win. And for me, I ended up finishing in P10 at 17.71 seconds off the race victory. Looking at my race in full, it was shocking. I do struggle around Japan a lot. The AIs are very quick around here, but I just struggle. The problem I've got is I either run a car which has got more downforce on it, which obviously means I'm a sitting duck going through the straight towards 130R and the pit straight, but I'm still not quick enough in the corners, if that makes sense. But then if I go and run a low downforce setup like I decided to do here, I'm still rubbish in the corners, and at least I've got a fighting chance. So no matter what, I've got to compromise myself, and this was the only way to kind of do it. So it is what it is. I think looking back on the whole race, I realistically should have been more collective in the lunge on Ricciardo in the hairpin on the first lap. And I should not have compromised Oscar by overtaking him and then not letting him pass, because I think he was probably able to stick in DRS of the McLarens and everybody up front. And I think maybe come the pit stop window then, when I came into the pits, maybe I would have come out and been ahead of like maybe one or two more cars, like maybe the McLarens, and then I could have tried to defend them hard for the rest of the race and maybe like let Piastri through and just gain a couple of positions. I think overall as a team, we didn't maximize it, and I think the reason for that was probably because of myself. So, you know, I'll take the blame for that. Bottas, though, meanwhile, got the fastest lap for the 1:26.343. Looking at the second half of the table now, Sergio Perez finishes in P11. Obviously, he was just behind me. Daniel Ricciardo was behind me, but I think he locked up on the last lap, so Perez got the overtake done there. A shocking race for Mercedes, from the highs of victory from Antonelli in the last race to both drivers not scoring any points this time around. Unfortunately, they just had a difficult qualifying session and they were stuck in the DRS train, which was led by me, and I wasn't really going to let them get anywhere near me, so it's one of those for them. Liam Lawson finishes in 15th for Jaguar, so again, a good qualifying session, but just can't make it work in the race yet. Ollie Behrman, 16th for BMW, not a bad result at all. Albon, 17th for Jaguar, ahead of Van Dorn, who is 18th for BMW. It's Gasly and Lando Norris were the two drivers that failed to finish this Grand Prix. Now let's have a look at the drivers' standings and see how things have actually changed now at the top of the standings. Well, after a maximum haul of 25 points for Reese and a whopping 1 point for me, that does mean that Reese is now the new championship leader. He leads the championship with 103 points to his name, and we are on 84 points, meaning Reese now has a comfortable 19-point advantage at the top of the championship, with George Russell third in the championship on 72 points, and he is 32 points now off the top of the Drivers' Championship. Vettel sits in fourth in the championship on 49 points. I think he's gone up a place ahead of Lando Norris by a point, who was on 48 points. Of course, Lando DNF'd from this Grand Prix, so that didn't necessarily help him out there. We've then got Charles Leclerc, who with that second place now is up to 45 points, so he's making a little bit of a charge up the championship table. Now he's 58 points off the top of the standings. Sam sits 7th now for Audi, and he is on 43 points, 60 points off the top of the drivers' standings. Oscar Piastri is then on 28 points, a point clear of both Carlos Sainz and Valtteri Bottas, who sit on 27 points apiece. The next race for us is the F1 Journey Singapore Grand Prix. Personally, one of my favourite tracks, so hopefully we can try and get this car a little bit further up the order, because if it's going to be anything like this one, our championship battle is, well, not going to happen. Looking at the Constructors' standings now, and again, big changes in the Constructors' standings. So, first things first, Porsche are now your new Constructors' Championship leaders going into the next race in Singapore. They're on 148 points. Of course, they scored a 1-2, maximum points. Compare that to, obviously, us in the Aston Martin, we scored 3 points. So, there was a 40-point swing going in Porsche's way. So ultimately, they obviously are way clear now. I believe that is 36 points, I think, is the gap. I could be wrong in all of that. McLaren are on 99 points, sitting third in the championship. But Audi, also with their third and fourth place finishes in this race, make a big leap forwards. They've now gone in front of Ferrari and Red Bull. They're on 70 points, 3 points clear of Ferrari, who are on 67 points, and then Red Bull are on 59 points. No points scored for Mercedes, so while they looked like they were going to be going towards a little bit of a rise in fortune, that's not the case there, with Renault sitting on 12 points and Jaguar and BMW still yet to score. But let's go and have a look at the post-race notebook now and see what the teams and drivers had to say after the Japanese Grand Prix. Taking a look at the post-race notebook, and Porsche claimed the first 1-2 of the season. Both Reese and Charles Leclerc started on the front row of the grid, but in terms of the race results, they flipped positions, with Reese ending up as your race winner for the first time this season, and Charles Leclerc takes home the runners-up spot. They managed to win out in a fierce battle between the two Audi drivers of Carlos Sainz and Sam. Reese has warned rivals that Porsche are now ready for anyone. This comes after a heavily fought victory this weekend, in which both the drivers had to work together in order to fight off the competition behind them. And that obviously left Audi very angry, including both their two drivers. Sainz and Sam were obviously angry with how their races ended up, for very different reasons. For Carlos Sainz, he was angry because he didn't make the final move count on the last lap. Throughout the course of the second stint, Sainz and Rees were slipstreaming and DRSing each other on the start-finish straight. On lap 26, Rees overtook Carlos Sainz to take the lead. But that meant on to lap 27, the final lap of the race, Sainz had an opportunity to take the lead and win the race, as there was no more DRS zones throughout the course of the lap. But Rees managed to fend the position off against Sainz, and in the end, came home to take the win. And not only that, but it allowed Charles Leclerc to work his magic in a brilliant battle to overtake Carlos Sainz. As for Sam though, he was in contention in the first stint, in fact fighting with Rees for the first place position after Charles Leclerc locked up on lap 11, but after he tried the undercut on the two Porsche drivers, Gasly in the Renault blocked him on the racing line, meaning he could not go through as Gasly's engine had failed. This is something that Sam has already tried to report to the F1 GB, so we'll have to wait and see if they've got anything to say on it. And finally, Tom has hopes that this weekend is just a one-off. It was a shocking race weekend for Aston Martin in general, but also for Tom. Despite starting P14 and recovering to finish in P10, Tom made all of that work count on the first lap, and from then onwards was nowhere near contending for anything more than that. And he hopes that if this is a one-off weekend, he can put it to one side and fight again next time around. But if this is now the true performance of the Aston Martin after the upgrades, then there is something to be really worried about. But that is it for this episode of the F1 Journey. If you guys have enjoyed it, feel free to drop it a like, subscribe to the channel if you're new around here as well, and I will catch you guys for the next round at the Singapore Grand Prix, where hopefully I can go ahead and make things a lot more simpler for myself. Otherwise, it's going to get tricky. Take care all. Peace.